Hello, and welcome to the channel. So today I've got A Solitude of Wolverines by Alice Henderson. It's a pretty good book. I think, well, depends on the kind of person you are. If you're the kind of person who likes breakneck stories, yeah, this is probably for you. If you are someone who likes a slow burn, not for you. That said, before I continue, please leave a like, share it around, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Thank you. Now, I have four aspects, and this is the no spoiler, just the breakdown of the actual structure of the story. So that way they're, like, do you like how this book is written? So writing style, I give it a 4 out of 5. So it's easy to read, but at times sounds a little too informal, like a little bit of almost text language, like texting speak in the book, and so it's like, and it's not to that level. It's not deplorable, but it's noticeable, and it does lose a point for that. That said, 4 out of 5, it's pretty good. Plot coherence. It's spelled out eventually, but it can feel a little just disjointed at times. And like me, if life is going right, I tend to be a before bed reader. So I'm falling asleep, I'm unwinding, I'm falling asleep, and instead of it kind of flowing, all of a sudden there's just this, there's a bump in the road, and it messes with me, and I'm like, what did I just read? And I have to go back a couple pages, stay up a little longer. It happens. But again, 4 out of 5. It is really well, it's very coherent. You can understand what's going on. It makes sense. Now, as for plot enjoyability, it is not my usual style. It is in the form of a maybe thriller, mystery, a little bit combination. I don't know if I'm defining thriller properly. But there's a little bit of mystery, and it's also a little environmentalist work, which I don't totally mind. Depends how well it's done. I do care about the environment, but if it's shoved down my throat, I tend to back away from it as well. So I give that a 4 out of 5. It was still good. It was a little whack at times, but it was still pretty good. Now, where it loses like a significant amount of points, or it's significantly different, is pacing. It had my neck going, like it was just breakneck, like one thing after another. Which, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy, and I enjoy it in the Alpha Girl series by Eileen Aaron. I need to do better reviews on those, especially since I finished the series and never did anything with them, but it's breakneck. Like, it just doesn't stop, and there's always a problem on the next page, which keeps you engaged, but it doesn't stop. So if you misread something, misunderstand something, you do have to go back, and then all of a sudden it just shifts gears on you, and you can kind of figure out where it's going if you've been paying attention, or not even that much attention, but enough. It just suddenly shifts gears, and you're like, oh shit, okay, That's new, but it does make sense. Okay, so out of all of that is 4, 8, 12, 17 and a half out of 20 stars. That's still a pretty good score, and honestly, I enjoyed reading it. I'm not going to say I didn't. I'm just pointing out where it lost points, where like it wasn't. I doubt I'll ever put anything. If something is really good in a category, I will put it as perfection, 5 out of 5 stars. But generally speaking, 4 out of 5. Really good. Now, here is the no spoiler summary. Alex Carter, the MC, is a wildlife researcher and activist. After a conservation interview goes south, Alex is offered the position of a lifetime to study wolverines. While on the preserve, she faces one problem after another, to the point she is unsure who she can trust. That's it. That is the whole premise of the book. But a lot goes on, and it is back to back to back to back to back to back. Okay, you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and get off the video. It's unfortunate, but I'm going to talk about the actual story from what I remember. I did finish a little while ago, and I finished another book in the meantime. But hey, so starting from the beginning, Alex Carter, she is into wildlife. I believe she has a doctorate, so I think she's Dr. Alex Carter. Yes, she is. They make a point of it in the book. She is Dr. Alex Carter. She just got this whole project done for a wetlands, I believe, to be conserved, which is awesome. And she's conducting an interview. The person doesn't really care. The journalist doesn't really care about what she has to say. She's just making it sound bubbly and entertaining. And I understand that. That makes some sense. Not everyone cares about the actual project itself. From there, the guy who had the deal to make for construction is PO'd. He wants her gone. And in his rage, he shoots the journalist. He shoots at Alex, but he never actually gets to her. She manages to escape, and as she escapes, she goes home, and she's shell-shocked, and she's recovering surprisingly well, probably because the people she knew didn't get hurt. It was just the journalist. She worries about her, but there's no attachment, no real attachment. She barely met this person, and the girl was already kind of rubbing her the wrong way. So it's like, I feel for you, but my life's got to keep going. And that makes sense. She goes home. Her old professor sees her or calls her up and says, "Hey, I've got a position for you." And she's like, "Oh, I needed this." And he's like, "Oh yeah, how are you doing with your boyfriend?" Because he also knew the boyfriend as well, one of his students, or they had been seen together on campus. I don't think he was one of his students. And she's like, "Well, things have been off. They've been bad. I don't even know what's going on." And, "Oh, did you see the news?" And he's like, "Nah." And he's like, "No, what happened?" So she tells him. She explains the whole thing. She explains how she got away, how she was chased, how she got away, etc. And he's like, "Well, you want a fresh start? It's yours." And she's like, "Oh, when do I have to leave?" And he's like, "Immediately." And so she packs up and she goes. As soon as she gets there, she does meet someone that she's interested in. It's another guy. He's also very much into wildlife conservation. Can't remember the guy's name. Doesn't really matter. He's not in the book all that much. So he shows her around, and it's cool. But right after, she sees someone tampering with her truck, and she's like, "What?" Or is around her truck, around her property, because it's kind of in her, like it's kind of hers. She's on the preserve, and it's an old ski resort, and so the building is like hers for all intents and purposes. Obviously, it belongs to the preserve and therefore the government, but she's the caretaker, so it's hers for the meantime. All she knows is that the last guy up and left, and she's like, well, it would make some sense if there was some unsavory behavior going on, and especially like this guy who just up and ran after I saw him. She goes into town, she meets the people. The sheriff doesn't like her, other people don't like her. They're looking at her like, ugh, because they want the preserve for hunting or farmland, etc. She goes on and on and on. It's repetitious here. It's someone is causing her problems, and then one of the bigger problems is that one day she actually does manage to find a Wolverine, because she didn't even know if Wolverines were on this preserve. They assumed so, but they weren't sure. And Wolverines have huge territories, so they're pretty solitary creatures. Hence, a solitude of Wolverines, because they only ever travel like with the mom and the two kits, maybe the father and the two kits or cubs or whatever. And she does find one, and she traps it, kinda. She sets up a photo camera, a photo trap that takes a small amount of fur from the Wolverine, basically minimally invasive, more so she can actually document that it's there. Each one has a unique belly pattern. That's how she identifies them. She finds the trap, then her trap is destroyed. And she's like, what the heck? She goes out into the wilderness to find out what's going on. She finds, and she hears screeching and screaming, and she finds a Wolverine who has also been trapped, but it's by someone else's trap. So she has no idea who's laid it. She manages to free the Wolverine and her 2 cubs. She realizes that it has 2 kids or cubs. It comes out of the tree. Awesome. She's like, whew. And she tries to track it down as best she can, just to see where it was denning. No luck. She comes back. The trap is gone. So her personal trap was destroyed. And then the trap that had been laid out that was not hers is gone. Is dismantled. And things really start boiling over when one day she wakes up and I believe she's in a tent. She pitched a tent and she just sees like large creatures rustling around or moving around her camp. She opens it up and there are cattle. And so she follows the cattle and she realizes that the fence had been intentionally cut and peeled back to let them graze, which is not only illegal, it's a huge detriment to her research because they take up a lot of resources on the preserve. So she goes into town, she tells the sheriff doesn't seem to really care, and then she had talked to one of the ranch hands and he's like, do you know who this belongs to? And he sounds like a sassy little pain in the rear. And I hate him so much. Like, you're going to have problems talking to this. I'm like, problems with the law, dude. The government's bigger than your ranch. And yes, of course, there are always things that will be cut, corners that will be cut. But with someone who already just recently, and they don't know this, but recently gained a lot of fame because they were in an active gun, or with an active gunman, an active shooter, on live TV, whether or not it was posted or not by the news station, people will see this. And I just think I'm just on my tangents and my internal tangent. But she goes into town, she tells the sheriff, and the sheriff doesn't seem really interested in saying anything about it. And he's like, I'll take care of it. And she's like, okay. And she doesn't really like him. She's also gone on a search and rescue mission with him because she saw the same guy who was at her home the first or second day, and he was all beat up, and so they couldn't find anything. So she doesn't really like him. She doesn't really trust him. He's a grouchy old coot. She goes out to lunch with one of the ladies, and I'm going to stop here because this is where things start to pick up quite a bit. The lady that works at the front desk of the sheriff's department, and she doesn't like the owner of the ranch where the ranch hand had spoken down to Alex. And he comes over with his swagger and he's like, oh, you should just give me the property. It's a lot of land to manage for just one girl. He's an a-hole, And she says, no, we're doing just fine. We don't need you. And he hates it. And that's where I'm going to stop. And that's about halfway through the book. So a lot happens in a very short period of time. Alex has more and more drama. I could go through the whole book, but that last bit, I think shouldn't be. I don't think it should be spoiled. It gets crazy and it gets crazy fast. Even with the stuff that you already have, it just keeps escalating. The stakes just keep getting bigger. So yeah. If you liked this review, I really appreciate it. Again, leave a like, share it around, and subscribe if someone else you think would like it. I really appreciate it if you turn it my way. And if you're one of the people who disagrees with me on some of my opinions, that's all right, because then I like this book. You probably won't like it. It's all well and good. Yeah, so get out there, or in, I suppose. Work your noggin, and have a good one.